So I am currently sitting in my son's room right now, and I am 9 months pregnant. And as I am about to give birth to my second son, I have been kind of reminiscing over my first son's, birth story and my whole pregnancy journey the first time around. So I kind of wanted to share some of that story that I've actually never shared before. It was actually very quick. So that's why I want to couple, the whole pregnancy journey along with the birth story. But I think it would be cool to, record and actually say how everything went out loud, to kind of give myself that freedom and that space to allow this second pregnancy journey to kind of flourish in its own way. Now, if we start from the beginning, when I first found out I was pregnant, I remember we had a trip planned to Colorado, and I usually keep track, of my period. I have this app that I use to track my period. It's just easier that way. I've been with the same person for 14 years, so I've never had like a late period. I've always known that my period will come on a specific day, maybe one day later, 2 days max. At this point, when we were planning our trip, I knew I was going to be on my period, but when this trip came, I actually did not get it. And so we just decided to enjoy the trip. And when we come back from the trip, we would, test to see if we were having a child. And it did turn out that when we came back, we tested positive for pregnancy. We were both kind of nervous at this point because this was when we were 10 years in and we had just moved in together. So we're still living in an apartment, and it wasn't even a year yet before our lease was up, before we found out they were pregnant. And we were kind of nervous. We always talked about having kids, but for it to be for real, it made everything real. So I actually went to the doctor. I went to just a general doctor just to confirm that I was in fact pregnant, because we kind of didn't believe it. So I went, they did confirm, and then from there, honestly, everything changed. I did not know that I didn't want to go, the hospital OBGYN route until maybe like 2 or 3 visits in. But I still went that route in the beginning. And then from there, so it was about 3 visits that I did with the OBGYN. The first visit was to find out and confirm pregnancy. The second visit, I did have my blood drawn. I believe it was to test for any abnormal chromosomes for the baby, also any deficiencies for myself. So that visit also went okay. It was well. But by the third visit, when I was getting my test results back, I didn't have a good feeling about the doctor that I was with, or just doctors or hospitals in general. I just did not feel like it was the route for me. I remember the doctor telling me like, you're gonna have a miscarriage because you had a prenatal massage. All these things are gonna happen to you, and you can't lift weights, and all these things that I cannot do, but she couldn't tell me what I could do. So I was really, kind of, so I was very turned off about the whole process of going to see them. I think what else turned me off was when my partner was going with me to these visits. He wasn't allowed in the room. He wasn't able to be a part of it. I just felt very disconnected, very forced, very uneasy. By this stage, I didn't know I wanted to have a home birth. I just knew I did not want to be with the doctors. They did not have my best interest. So I would just, at this point, go home, like harp on all the decisions that I had to make. I could have birth at a birthing center. I could have birth at home, all these different options. But intuitively, I did know that I wanted to do everything as natural as possible. And so eventually I did choose to do the midwife route and have a home birth. Now, I don't consider myself like a crunchy mom by any means, But I think in this instance, a lot of zero waste decision making, minimalist decision making, very natural background that I kind of am gravitated towards, kind of just followed me within this journey. So I knew right away that I wanted to have a natural, unmedicated, intervention free home birth. So I found my midwives that are still currently my midwives at Gentle Birth Care. Beautiful, natural, land, water, birth friendly, midwifery practice. And they were the best decision I've ever made. So a little bit of background information on Gentle Birth Care. They are a midwifery practice, completely different than what you would find at a doctor's office. They don't use terms like epidural or Pitocin or induction or contractions. They'll kind of reference certain phrases like you're having a surge, no interventions, ride the wave and feel your own body and do everything as natural as possible. And I very, very surely feel connected to that language. And so they are a medical practice. They do have only a 3 to 7% hospital transfer and cesarean rate, however you want to put that, and that's very helpful. They're also very welcoming for dads. I was so impressed with the way they treated my partner, James. He was given so much care, just as much care as I was given. So it's more than just like a medical practice. They touch on your emotional needs, any stresses, your family life, nutritional needs, dietary needs. They kind of cover a basis of wellness, and it's not just how are you and the baby doing. It's really how is your life, and they really pay attention to you as a human being and really understand the importance of allowing you and your family to create the most beautiful, peaceful kind of story that you could for your own children and generations to come. So it was very welcoming. So everything regarding family health was treated perfectly, wonderfully. Also, what else that the midwifery, oh my gosh, what else the midwifery does, you are scheduled for a visit every 4 weeks until you are 28 weeks. Then you'll go every week until you are 32 weeks. And then, actually 36 weeks. You'll have one home visit. Actually, one of the midwives just came to my home just 2 days ago for baby number 2. And such a freeing feeling having everything in place. And then from there until 40 weeks or until you deliver, you'll have a visit every week. And, they take care of you every visit. I can't get over saying how great Gentle Birth Care is. So around the 36-week mark, that's when things start to really pick up, when the midwives come to your home to make sure you have all your supplies, to make sure everything is in order. And really at the 36-week mark, you can have your baby at any time. You don't have to wait until you're 40 weeks. So this is around the time where I started to do the most like visualization and breath work and just empowering myself. I know labor is a verb. It's something that you do. It's something that you actively have to put work in. It's not something that I can outsource my power to someone else. So I only watched like positive birth stories on YouTube. I only had positive, affirmations said to myself. I only, I ate pretty decently. I exercised well. A lot of that came from that self-empowerment and intuition. So that's what I continue to do for the rest of the pregnancy. Once I hit about 38 weeks, I don't think it actually hit me that this home birth was really going down, because I started to have a lot of fear and doubt. Like, what if I do have to get transferred to the hospital? I don't know anything about C-sections. I don't know anything about epidurals. I didn't plan for that. I didn't research any of that. I didn't know what to expect. So a lot of fear and doubt was overcoming me. But I just had to stay grounded and stick to my plan A. And I think visualizing how I wanted to give birth kind of eased my fear a lot more. Also, it was, my first birth, so I have no idea what to expect. Everyone around me no one has ever given birth at home, so this was a new experience, and it was kind of crazy, once I came to that realization. Now by 39 weeks is when I really got into, the final stretch. I was drinking my red raspberry leaf tea. I was eating dates. I was having sex. I was doing all the things to try to get baby out, try to get my cervix ripened. I was doing all the things. So at 39 weeks and 2 days, I decided to have sex 2 days in a row. On the third day, that's when I had lost my mucus plug. And I wanted to tell my doula first because I didn't want to, give any false alarms to my midwives because I know they would come medically prepared. So I asked my doula, kind of where I am in this process. And she said, just stay on your birth ball, go ahead and eat, drink, sleep, rest. It's going to be a few days before, you start to feel any contractions and birth starts to actually progress. So just do all the things and continue on. So at this point, we are at 39 weeks and 3 days. I lost my mucus plug on that third day. Texting my doula, she said, just go ahead and continue to do all the things. My sister came over that night around 7 or 8 p.m. And we were talking about the farmer's market because we do farmer's markets together in the summer. And that's when I started to feel contractions, and she was kind of helping me like, I think we should be timing these. So she helped me time them. I try to keep my mind off of it so I wouldn't be so freaked out. So we were talking about like meal prepping and meal planning. So I had some meals postpartum that I didn't have to do a lot of cooking, that I could just, go downstairs with with my child and just pop the meals in the oven. I wouldn't have to worry about it. So we were doing that for a few hours. It was a long process. But little did I know I was actually in labor and having contractions or surges that time. Now it's 11 p.m. and my sister decides to leave. She's like, just go upstairs and get some rest. And I myself, I'm like, I cannot wait to go upstairs, get some sleep, take a nice hot bath, and just prepare and just relax. But little did I know, by the time I went upstairs, I was in full-on labor. I was still in early labor, but I was definitely feeling those surges. I decided to prepare my bed, put down the mattress protector and just, rest as much as possible. That's when James kind of took over and was counting my contractions on his phone. So he stayed up with me from 11 p.m. to about 4 a.m. I was having these contractions or these surges. I was riding the wave. I was doing all my breathing techniques. I was doing lunges and squats and on my birth ball. So we kind of went through that together. It was hard, but still, I didn't know what was coming next. Now we get to about 4 a.m. This is where James decides he is tired and he falls asleep. So he goes to sleep. His phone dies. I don't know what's going on with my contractions. I feel them, but I'm just trying to work through them. Time is not a factor at this point. I'm just trying to be present. But when you're giving birth or when you're laboring, there's absolutely no way that you can be present. You're in a different realm. You're trying to talk to God and you're somewhere else, trying to talk to your child and say your affirmations and breathe. So he's over there sleeping, phone dead. I don't know what's going on, and I'm just trying to walk around the house and breathe this baby down and out and talk to him and talk to God and just and try to find the strength to get some sleep. Even 30 seconds of rest would have helped, but I barely even got that. Now the last couple hours were all a freaking blur. I don't know if it was 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. or what. I just know that I was doing everything that I needed to. I was seeing the sunrise. I was hearing cars go by. And at this point, I'm like, it's early enough to call my midwives. They need to come over. Before I was even able to wake James up, I feel what feels like my baby's head come out of me. And I am kind of freaking out because we haven't called anybody. No one's there. Just me and my sleeping partner next to me. So I wake him up and I say, James, I think his head is out. So he wakes up. He's so in shock, and I feel so bad. That's how I woke him up. But he needed to know that this is serious. So he woke up. He had to get a different phone, charge his phone, call the midwives, call the doula, and they were all on their way. I would say around 8 a.m. at this point. So the first midwife shows up about 30 minutes before I actually give birth. She sets up her medical supplies. She surrounds me. She comes into the door like we don't have to ask any questions. She just came in quietly, set up, sat next to me. Perfect. We love that. At this point, I was roaring, I was groaning, I was moaning, I was breathing heavy, I was screaming, and she was just perfect. My doula showed up shortly after, and she helped me so much emotionally. She was there feeding me. She gave me something to drink. She was holding my leg. Very much so cheering me on and giving me all the emotional support, and I was here for it. This point, I couldn't do any more moving. I'm laying on my right side with my left leg up, which is really weird, but that's how I knew he was about to come, because I did not want to move. And by the way, what was bulging out of me was not my son's head. It was my bag of waters. So I'm so glad it didn't break. My water did not break, and it didn't burst in that time. Everything was still intact. It was like God knew, keep that stuff intact, or else any type of infection would have happened, or if they didn't come on time, who knows what would have happened. But I didn't see, but James just saw, the bag just bulging out of me, and he wanted to to poke it. I'm like, please don't poke it, because if this breaks, it's gonna be a wild ride from here, and it's gonna hurt. So I just laid back. My midwife showed up, my doula showed up shortly after. My second midwife showed up, and then I was having the urge to bear down and push as much as I can through my breathing, and then my baby comes out. My baby comes out along with my water, and it was just like a slippery slope, so they just came out together. It was a very smooth transition. The contractions or the surges were the hardest part, but the actual birth part was not that bad. Afterwards, my midwife said that I did tear a little bit, that if I got stitches, it would have hurt more. So I didn't end up getting stitches. But so my son comes out, and the midwife and James catches him together, and she hands, James, our son, and he's holding him, and he's the first one to hold him and put him to his chest. And he kind of like yanks him towards him, and not realizing that there's still a placenta attached to me. So he's pulling out my placenta that's still inside of me, and I'm like, oh my God, please do not do that. And he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't know. And so he puts baby James on my chest, and so we do have skin to skin time first. Now, I thought the contractions were the worst part, but I believe that giving birth to the placenta was the hardest part, because the midwives had to press onto my stomach very, very hard in order for me to push the placenta out. It wasn't that it was hard pushing the placenta out, it was that the whole placenta is a whole new organ when you are pregnant, and so it's like a scab that's been forming for 9 months in your stomach, and then it's suddenly ripped out. And so they had to push on your stomach to make sure no blood is still left inside of you, so you don't get any blood clotting or anything like that. And that is what hurt the worst, when they had to push on my stomach to make sure everything was out. But that was a smooth transition as well. After that, we put the placenta into a stainless steel bowl, and the midwife kind of showed me the anatomy of the placenta, where my baby was, and it was just a beautiful experience. So now at this point, we're in bed. I'm still lying in bed. James is next to me. Baby James in our arms. It's just the three of us, like basking in this new, journey and experience together. The midwives are cleaning up any towels. They put it in the laundry. They're starting the paperwork. The doula is handing me fruit and food. And it was just a beautiful experience. My parents and my family are downstairs cooking me my postpartum meals. And it was the most transformative experience for not just me, but for my family as well. That this is the first time that anyone in the family has done a home birth, has had this type of care before. When they treat pregnancy like it's a disease in a hospital, but now it's seen and shed in a light where it's positive and it's hopeful and it's beautiful. And I'm glad I was the first one to be able to do that. And my favorite part was how no one came to really interrupt us afterwards. So we were just still sitting there in bed, the placenta's next to us, still blood going through it to our son. We didn't wait until I think 2 or 3 hours after birth in order for James to first cut the umbilical cord. So it was 3 hours where just a doula came in and the midwives making sure that, baby is latching on, breastfeeding correctly, make sure that I'm okay, and that even dad is okay. The emotional support was so, so unbelievably helpful. But they didn't try to wake us up. They didn't do anything unnecessary. They helped clean up. They were just truly helpful. And from that point on, we just knew this was the best experience, and I couldn't have asked for a better experience. And now with my second child, I hope the same thing happens. I do want to say that I will always advocate for midwifery and having a home birth and a natural birth, unmedicated birth. I would always advocate for that, but however you choose to bring your child into this world is how God meant it to be. So there's no right or wrong way to give birth. As long as you're healthy and your child is healthy, that is the best thing that could ever happen. I did encapsulate my placenta. I did breastfeed. I did co-sleep. I did all the things that were intuitive to myself. So my journey is going to look completely different than someone else's journey. And I even believe that my journey with my first son is going to be completely different with my second son, even though I still have the same kind of habits and patterns. Who knows how this baby is going to show up into this world, but however it is, it'll be beautiful and perfect.